Is it time to believe? On today's show, we break down the Leafs' Game 2 win over the Panthers and discuss if it's time to finally buy in to this year's Buds. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What's happening, Dave? How we feeling after that one? Leafs with a 4-3 win in Game 2 and take a 2-0 series lead over the Florida Panthers. Dave, how we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Not much. The blood pressure wasn't as high in this one as it was for Game 1. Game 1 was just like the stress of that one. Blowing having the lead shrink like that. It's just like it was like going on a massive roller coaster in that one. This one here was satisfying because yes, while they did have to hold on to a lead once again, and it was a very close one, you saw a big pushback from this team where the Panthers took the lead. They took the lead. Leafs then got their own lead. Panthers tie it. The Leafs then go pull ahead. And to me, that speaks to just the mental resolve of this team. Past years, I don't know if they win this game. I really don't know if they win a game like this. And I think that's what makes me feel way more optimistic this time around. This team's got more of the mental resolve than we've come to know of this group.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. And this is, that was obviously a big thing that we saw happen in Game 6 against Ottawa, right? Like they give up the lead, but then they're able, quick strike, quick response. The next shift they scored and take the lead back. I mean, that's what happened, right? They gave up that third goal to Anton Lundell, kind of a tough bounce, goes off his skate, and then he gets a stick on it, and all of a sudden it's a tie 3-3 game, and Florida at that point, I guess, has momentum, but no, they send out the big boys who, really didn't have a good game. We could be honest with ourselves. That top line didn't play well tonight. They're playing in their own end for most of the night, but they came up clutch when they needed it. Obviously, they get put out there, and 17 seconds later, Mitch Marner from a pretty bad angle ends up roofing it. And I'm sure it's one that Bobrovsky wishes he had back, wishes he maybe had an extra second to find the puck. But 17 seconds after Lundell ties the game, the Leafs able to take back the lead. And it really is, again, something that just didn't happen with this team in the past. And that's another one of those reasons to believe in maybe what this team is selling as to be real. Like that's what they need. They need that, mental fortitude. They need the gumption to be able to put, goals like that away and be like, all right, they got one. They got back in this game, but guess what? We can still go out there and we could still score. Like this is still very much anyone's game at that moment. It's not like they lost. And they didn't look at it that way. They said, all right, let's get it back. And 17 seconds later, they did. So, I thought that, the Leafs, was it a Picasso performance? Was it a great game? No, it was more of a Jackson Pollock where it was a little messy, but they got it done. They won the game. They're up 2-0. Joseph Woll, a little shaky at times, but he came up big when they needed him to, right? He made a couple of big stops there late in the third period. The team in front of him played extremely well, blocking shots, giving him opportunities. They have 24, 25 block shots tonight. Like that, that's what they're doing. They're getting in front of pucks, and that's the stuff that's been missing in years past, right? They didn't have the defensemen who were really willing and capable of eating pucks that way. Simon Benoit, 5 blocks. Chris Tanev, 5 blocks. Brandon Carlo, 3 blocks. Like these guys who've come in the last year or two, just completely just changed and reshaped what this blue line is and the identity of what they're willing to do. And it's been a big reason for why they've had a lot of success in this postseason. And no matter who's in goal, whether it's Stolars or whether it's Woll, they're going to give the goalie a better chance to win the game because of the way they play in front of them. And I thought that was a big reason for why they were able to get the dub tonight, despite the change in net.
Yeah, I mean there's been a lot of things kind of thrown around with the Leafs, right? You got a new goaltender, right? And I always say like the defense always has to adjust to what the goaltender's doing, right? Yeah, they played in front of Joseph Woll all year, but they haven't played in front of Joseph Woll in a while, right? They've gotten used to what Anthony Stolarz has been doing in this playoffs.
Was it
so like
18 days since his last start?
Right. So there is something to say about that. But like Florida was all over them in their own zone. Like
Yes.
this is the one if we're looking at one thing that everything's kind of feeling pretty good right now. Like the Leafs got caved in heavily tonight. And that's something there where I'm at the point where it's like you got to find a way to improve on that because it's not going to be able to sustain itself for the rest of the games. Yes, I know you're up 2-0.
Yeah.
But Florida, if I'm Florida right now, I'm saying, yeah, our goaltender hasn't been good. We haven't capitalized enough on our chances, but this was a game here where if we played it again, maybe it could be a different outcome, right? The deserve win meter was 74.8% for Panthers.
Yeah, I mean,
for that game again, I don't know if Toronto gets as lucky on some of the Leafs capitalize on certain things really well, but if we're looking at how the Panthers played all game, yeah, I would say there's going to be some areas where they would probably like to capitalize a little better on.
No doubt about it. I think the Maple Leafs are lucky to have won this game. Like we'll call a spade, right? I think the Panthers were the better team tonight, but sometimes the better team doesn't win. How many times has Toronto been the better group, but just somehow find a way to lose games, or they run into a hot goaltender, or the offense runs dry, or the power play can't get it going? Like this has happened to Toronto a lot over the course of the last 8 years, and seems like this year they're finally getting the bounces, right? Like the puck rebound bounces perfectly onto Pacioretty's stick, and there's nobody on him. He has a wide open net just to put it, into the back of the net to get the Leafs on the board. It's like that stuff like that just wasn't happening in the past. Like usually there's no space. He could have literally sat on his ass, did a little couple of twirls, played, go duck, duck, goose with the puck and still have time to shoot and score. Like it was insane how much time he had. But yeah, like it wasn't necessarily a great game by Toronto. Obviously, you noted it. So it was 74% deserve to win a meter in favor of the Panthers. Well, yeah, natural stat trick. You're looking at the expected goals. 66% of the expected goals in favor of the Florida Panthers in all situations. Like Toronto scored 4 goals, but only had an expected goals of 1.85. So, Bobrovsky not quite on his, not quite as sharp as he typically is. Like that Marner goal, not one that typically should be going in, right? The game winner. But hey, you're getting lucky. The Maple Leafs getting a little lucky, and that's what they've lacked for many years. And it's like eventually the tide has to turn. And it's kind of turning right now. Like they were outshot 29-20. They were outchanced 34-15. The high danger chances were 17-7, all in favor of the Florida Panthers. But the scoreboard read 4-3 Toronto, and they came away with the win. And they win both of their games in Toronto, and now have set themselves up very nicely heading down to Sunrise for game number 3 on Friday.
And per NHL PR, Maple Leafs take a 2-0 series lead in back-to-back series for the first time since 1963.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 67. I thought you were going to say 67.
I wish it was 67, but
they still did win the cup in 63, if I'm not mistaken.
But like, isn't that crazy that this team has not had 2-0 series lead in back-to-back series since 63? That to me is crazy.
That's like 63 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like it's insane that this team has not been able to to have that much success in the postseason where they haven't been able to go up 2-0 in that span. But I mean, hey, I don't think anybody thought that this was going to be the case for the Maple Leafs. I mean, there's a lot of doubters out there that said, the Panthers, like they're not going to be able to beat Florida. And you looked at the underlying numbers against Ottawa, and it was like, man, the Senators, like they kind of had the more favorable possession metrics. Like if you play the Panthers that way, there's no shot that they can win. Like that was the mentality of Leafs Nation coming into the series. And here we are, a couple games in, the Maple Leafs 2, Panthers none. Like it's funny because the Leafs have been on the right side of the possession metrics for many, many years and on the wrong side of the scoreboard. And it seems like this year everything's kind of flipped. I guess that's what playoff hockey is all about, right? Like you just have to hope you get good bounces, you capitalize on the few chances you get, and you have to make one extra save than the other goalie. And tonight, Joseph Woll was able to do that. We'll continue to break down the win on the other side. We've got our 3 stars of the game as well. That's coming up next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire somebody yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored job. Put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates fast. If you're looking for somebody and, every day you don't have that person, it can be a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up their hiring process with the $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need.
Welcome back into the Locked On at Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, David Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday on the Locked On Leafs podcast, Monday through Friday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcatcher, wherever. We're also up on YouTube. You can watch the video format of the pod and take a peek at Dave and I. And Dave, got a new background you're working with. What's going on there? Did you move? Like, nice new background? I'm a fan. Nice and tight shot on you. I like it.
Wanted to change things up a little bit, so I moved the table. So I'm on a different wall. It's a little closer. I had been thinking about making a move for a bit, and second round, try things a little differently. And look at this. We have seen the most Leafs playoff wins since I was like 10 years old.
You weren't worried that it was going to mess with the mojo of what was like
I initially thought Leafs? I had somebody say that, and you know what? I fear sometimes you're superstitious.
That's why I haven't changed my background. Like I'm obviously like I'm borrowing my background from a very well-known Leaf fan. We all know who it is, and I'm not changing it until the playoffs are over. Hopefully, that's after a Stanley Cup has been won. But it's been working well with this background, so I'm just gonna roll with it until it doesn't. And so far, so good. So
yeah, I'm keeping everything aligned the way it was. So we got the Tavares in the right spot, all the jerseys are in the right spot. Just shifted the table. That's it, and moved things to a different wall.
Well, you're looking good, buddy. Looking good. And the Leafs are looking pretty good. Up 2-0 in the best of 7 against the Florida Panthers. Like we said, it wasn't a perfect game. Realistically, Florida probably outplayed Toronto, but still they got the win. They got it done, and they only need 2 more victories now to get it. This is the most wins that the Maple Leafs have had in the playoffs since 2004, Dave. This is the most wins. They got their 6th win tonight. That's nothing that this Marner, Matthews, Nylander era has ever done. Because the one year that they made it through, beat Tampa, they lost in 5. They only had 1 extra win. So 5 they had that year. They're already up to 6 wins. So it's already a new personal record for this core for wins in a playoff series. So nothing to celebrate. Job's not finished. But again, just we keep thinking about what's different, right? What's different? Well, now they've got a 6th win. They've never been able to do that before. How they got the 6th win? I mean, there was some good performances, I think, that we got to give some love to. So let's get to the 3 stars of the game here, Dave. Who's your first star tonight?
I got to give it to the guy who I don't know if he's currently still in the lead for the playoff scoring, but Will Nye, the tip guy, the
guy.
What are we calling that 2-on-1 goal there? But 13
Billy
points.
Tippins.
13 points for Willie, tied with Connor McDavid for the NHL scoring lead. Although Mikko Rantanen has a hat trick in the second period for the Dallas Stars.
Again.
So that might change things by the time this podcast is done with the way Mikko Rantanen's been going. But he's just been so good. Like when he's on, and we've said this many times before, when he's on, he's on. And Craig Berube very complimentary of William Nylander after the game, pretty much saying nothing phases this guy. He doesn't feel the pressure. And I mean, that second goal he scored, the second goal of the game, the goal he scored, didn't look like much, right? It didn't look he needed to do much, but he played it perfectly. Sergei Bobrovsky's probably gonna be sick of playing against William Nylander because he just has his number right now. I love it.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, scored twice in game 1, scored again here tonight in game 2. Saw 5 goals in the last 3 games for William Nylander. He's been a big time performer here after being a bit of a passenger, we'll say, through the first few games of that series against Ottawa. But game 6, he hunkered down and got going, and he's carried that through into the second round. And I'm with you. I thought he was all over it tonight. Obviously, scores a goal. And, William Nylander's been terrific. And when he's engaged and when he's attacking the net and playing with confidence, he's a different player, right? When he does that stop up nonsense and he's not taking the puck to the net and he's not back checking and he's giving pucks away, it doesn't look the same, right? It doesn't look the same. But when he's on his game and he's playing with confidence, he is one of the better premier players and playmakers and goal scorers in the NHL. The guy scored 45 this year. All right. Only Leon Draisaitl scored more. And here we are in the postseason. He's just continued to put pucks into the back of the net and had another one tonight. 3 straight games with a goal, 5 in his last 3. He's on fire. He was my first star as well. Your second star, Dave.
Max Pacioretty.
Yeah, dude. He's
I want to know what his middle name is because right now he's playing like an MVP. The last
Victor?
3 games.
Could it be Victor? Vincenzo? Maxwell Vincenzo Pacioretty?
No, actually, apparently it's Maximilian Kolenda Pacioretty. Damn, MKP.
All right.
But he's played like the last 3 games, like it's been unreal for him. I think that's 6 points in his last 3 games.
Yeah.
It's not even like the points, it's how he's playing in these 2 games against Florida.
Well, he's been physical too.
If he sees a guy and he's got an opportunity to really plow into the boards, he's not letting up.
No.
If you're on the ice against Max Pacioretty and he's got an opportunity to hit you, you're going to be getting some punishment. And like Craig Berube was talking about it. I don't know if it was after game 1, where he's talking like you get an opportunity to hit someone, go through them.
High 7 hits tonight. 7 hits for old man Patches. Maximilian Conda?
Yeah. Kolanda.
Maximilian Kolanda Pacioretty. 7 hit night. Scored a block shot. I mean, yeah, the guy was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic tonight. Didn't play a whole lot. Only ended up with 12 minutes of ice time, but extremely effective in that 12 minutes, right?
Like, we didn't even talk about the play of the game, the tip on that power play goal. Like, chef's kiss. Like, Sidney Crosby couldn't do it any better. I mean, Sid has done it quite well in his career, but like what I loved about the goal too, he scores. Not sure if he actually did score. I'm going to shoot it again just in case. Yeah. Just in case it doesn't go in. And then he knew exactly where that camera was on the celebration shots.
Jumped right in.
has been beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's again, we didn't expect him to be contributing at this level. I expect him to be physical. I expect him to push the tone, set the tone a bit physically. I wasn't expecting him to have this much of an offensive contribution. I expect him to chip in offensively, but now he's being featured more offensively. I do like what I'm seeing there.
Yeah, I mean, egg on our face for thinking that Pacioretty on the second line would be a terrible addition. And granted, he's been kind of playing. He'll start on the second, then kind of work his way down. But still, he's played well with those two guys, that's for sure. And then obviously tonight on the power play, the second unit finally getting it going, getting some power play time, and they come up with a big goal to kind of get the party started for Toronto. I mean, I want just to give some love to the blue line in general. Like I know that they kind of got caved in a little bit, and like the underlying numbers don't look good, but you blocked 25 shots. Like that's putting your body on the line. You deserve, a little bit of respect for that. So I wanted to give a shout out to the blue liners and the guys who were able to do that. I mean, Simon Benoit, 5 blocks tonight. Chris Tanev, 5 blocks tonight. Morgan Riley, 5 blocks tonight. Brandon Carlo got a block tonight. Like, all of these guys are putting their bodies on the line, not just with blocks, but also Benoit, 2 hits, Tanev, 3 hits, McCabe, 2, Riley, 3 hits, OEL, 2 hits. Like, they're just out there, putting their bodies on the line night in, night out, and giving this team, their best opportunities to keep the puck in the back of the net. Like that, the puck was in Toronto's end a lot tonight, but it could have tested Joseph Woll a lot more if those guys didn't do what they did to get in front of those pucks. So, shout out to the blue line. And that's, again, something that this team, not necessarily what they have been known for over the last couple of years, with this new big, mean blue line who are willing to take pucks. And that's kind of their identity right now. Physical, hard-nosed. It's made a big difference. It's made a big difference in a game like tonight that was so tight. You take a couple of those shot attempts and turn them into blocks as opposed to shots on goal. Potentially rebounds could be created off those. Maybe they beat, the goalie cleanly. I mean, you never know. So that to me was a big time proponent of the Maple Leafs win tonight. So I want to give a shout out to the defense as a whole for the block shots.
Yeah, I mean, they have sacrificed quite a bit to make sure that, especially for Joseph Woll, we talked about, it's a different goal you're going up against, you're playing in front of, and they have understood that, if you get an opportunity to get in front of a shot, do it. Didn't work out so well. I think it was the Barkov goal on the power play where Tanev tries to get in front to block it. It goes through him, and Woll's not able to make the save. But they're putting their body, that's punishment. That is, again, we talk about physicality. That's another way you play physical. And I always give them a lot of credit because they always are putting themselves in the positions to help their goalie out. But I got to also give a shout out to Joseph Woll because, again, once again, he hasn't started. You said 18 games he hasn't started. It's not easy for a goalie to come into these situations and have to play at a level that other players are already at, right? He hasn't played, the relief one. He came in, I'm sure, a lot of adrenaline. He got off to a good start. Third period didn't go so well for him. What does he do tonight? You know what? That goal from Barkov, you like to see him stop that one, right?
Yeah.
Even the one on, I think it was the second goal where guy comes out in front. He's sliding, he's tracking, and it beats him. Okay, you like to see him make that one. But the toe save he makes.
Yeah. Was that Samoskevich?
Yeah. It was Samoskevich or Luostarinen, one of those two. But late in the game, that's a save that you have to make, even when you're not maybe playing at your best.
Yeah.
And so I think hopefully we don't know how long Joseph Woll is going to be in the net for. If Stolarz is going to be able to get back in the net at some point in this series. But as long as he's in the net, build up that confidence. And I think right now he's outdueled Bobrovsky, which is crazy to say. Like, Bobrovsky's just been brutal.
He's been bad, man. Like, he's been tough. Like I said, Toronto tonight, their expected goal is 1.85. So, like, you think about he's allowed what's that 2.15 goals allowed above expectation. That's not Bobrovsky. Like, that was the complete opposite. He was usually saving 2 goals above expectation the last time these two teams played each other in a playoff. Now he's allowing 2 more goals above expectation. And guess what, Dave? That's the difference between the 3-2 losses that Toronto had in that first, in that 2023 series. I think what 3 of those games ended 3-2. Now all of a sudden he allows 2 goals above expectation. Now it's a 4-3 win for Toronto. Funny how that kind of works, no?
It's crazy how that works when a goalie doesn't have a 943 save percentage in a series, because that's very sustainable to happen again.
Yeah.
And I think what it's also impressive about this, you said it, the top guys didn't play at the top guys tonight. You had other guys step up. I thought Scott Lawn had a great game. Max Domi getting that goal was huge.
Yeah.
Like, other guys are stepping up. Yeah, again, it wasn't a perfect game, but they really capitalized on Florida being aggressive too. Like, Florida wants to go and try to be aggressive in the offensive zone. The counterattack the Leafs have had, it's almost like the coach has put them in positions to capitalize on those things and make them understand, get the counterattack on this team, and good things will happen.
I think the coach deserves a lot of credit for how this team's playing tonight, and the gumption and the never quit. And again, like, they score 17 seconds after giving up the lead. 17 seconds is all they needed to get the lead back. And, that type of resolve was not there a year ago. And the biggest difference is the man behind the bench to calm things down and not let things, get to the heads of these players. And, Mitch Marner specifically, who plays, hard on his sleeve type of guy, typically stuff like that in the past seemed to get to him, and he kind of faded in these moments. Tonight, scores 17 seconds later, gives the team the lead, ends up to stand as the game-winning goal. And that new dad moment that we were waiting on, that dad bump, right? It finally came. Didn't come for game 1, but definitely came for game 2. And it was really the only solid play made by that top line tonight, because they weren't great. Like, you look at the underlying numbers, that line got caved in. I think they were outshot 13-2 that they were outshot tonight at 5-on-5. Or the chances were 13-2, or the scoring chances were 13-2 tonight against them. 5-2 in terms of high danger chances. The shots were only 6-3. But in terms of expected goal differential, 20. No, wait, hold on. Where'd it go? Yeah, 23%. 23% expected goals for that top line tonight. Not great, but they did not end up surrendering a goal, and they did get the game winner. So even on nights where that top line didn't play well, they all turned out to be plus players when all said and done. So can't be too upset with it after a win, but certainly will need to clean that up heading into game 3, especially now that it shifts to Florida, and things will get a little bit more difficult with them being able to truly get the line match. And now, Paul Maurice has final change. So we'll come back. We'll get into what to expect for game 3. Final thoughts on game 2. That's next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much money I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check in all your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com. You'll save 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. The Lockdown Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti reacting to the Maple Leafs 4-3 win in Game 2. They now take a 2-0 series lead into Florida. They win both games on home ice, and the series now shifts to Florida for game number 3 on Friday evening. Now, I do have a very big picture question for you, Dave, because we're 2 games in, and Florida has won the quote unquote underlying numbers battle, right? If the game was played on calculators, as the old school fans call it, Florida would have won, right? Florida should be up. And, you could say the exact same thing about Ottawa, but guess what? Ottawa's golfing. Leafs are still vying for a Stanley Cup championship. But my question to you is this a sustainable way to win for Toronto? Are they still able to continue to win like this despite the underlying numbers not looking so rosy? Because again, tonight, in all situations, 66% expected goals in favor of the Florida Panthers. Somehow the Maple Leafs able to come out on top, though.
I think it's more so not so much the chances on that, but like the blocks. As good as it is, they're blocking a lot of shots. Eventually, I'm worried about that wearing down this blue line. Like you see at times where a defenseman's out there, they got to try to clear the puck, and they just can't. And to me, that's the worrisome part is if you give those second, third opportunities because you're not able to clear the zone because, you blocked a shot, you're probably feeling it a little bit. So they got to find a way to do one or two things. Spend more time in the other zone, so cycle the puck a bit better, because they do have a few times where it's a bit more one and done. They're not able to get to the rebound, not able to get those second, third chances to stay in the zone. Or you got to find a way to break the puck out better. And to me, that's probably the area where I'm concerned. Their inability to break out the puck as much. Like there was an opportunity late in the game. Simon Benoit has it on his stick. He starts skating it out. He has possession, but then he dumps it out. And I think it went for an icing or it came right back. Like those ones are killer, right?
Yeah.
When you have the puck and there was not really anybody on you, you got to find a way to make sure that you're not giving a free possession for the other team by icing it or, dumping it down, but not getting it deep enough. And the other guy's able to bring it back in the zone quicker. You're not able to get a full change. So they really got to find a way to work on that, because I think at some point the Panthers are going to figure that out. They're going to find a way to get those high danger chances, because you talked about it. It was quite a significant margin, and that's not something that's going to be obviously sustainable. Ottawa was starting to figure it out a little bit, but they were down 3-0. There's only like you don't get many kicks at the can when you're down 3-0 to try to come back. Florida, they probably feel like, they took advantage of our chances, but we're keeping them in their own zone, and eventually it's going to wear down this defense for sure.
Yeah, I would say that is definitely a concern that the Leafs and Leafs Nation may have with this team. And the only way to avoid that is like you said, don't play in your end so much. And that's also something that this team has at times been accused of doing a little bit too much, even through the regular season. And they went out and they got guys like Brandon Carlo, guys like Scott Lawton, at the deadline so that they could defend, get pucks, and get them out of the zone. Like that's stuff that they're good at doing. Zone denials, one of Brandon Carlo's calling cards was such a great stick. So, hopefully, this is just a couple of games here. I will say it was something that we were slightly concerned about coming into the series, right? The hard forecheck and whether or not Toronto could withstand it, because it looked like they got overwhelmed a little bit by Ottawa, and Florida's forecheck is way worse. Like it's just way more relentless, way heavier, and just a lot more veterans on that team that know what to do when they put the Maple Leafs in situations like that. So Toronto, they got to find a way just to make sure that they can get the pucks out, right? And if that means having your forwards be a little bit deeper, allowing them to be a much easier outlet, so be it, right? Move up together, right? It's a lot easier to make a 5-foot pass to your winger or your centerman from behind the goal line than it is to make a 15, 20-foot pass. Right. That's something that I remember I was told by Frankie Corrado years ago, when we talked about the Leafs. And, when they're playing their best is when they're playing connected. And that's kind of the difference, right? When 5 guys are below the hash marks and all helping out, that's the best way to get the puck out. But when you got guys kind of lingering up by the blue line, looking for the stretch pass and whatnot, not really defending, it's a lot harder to get pucks out that way. So, that's something that I think needs to definitely change going forward. They ought to find a way to play in their zone far less and get the puck into Florida, establish their own forecheck, and get to work. That's something going into game 3. I'm sure Toronto's going to want to try and establish, because eventually, yeah, the wear and tear is going to come, but also just like we saw happen in Ottawa, like Toronto got the early bounces in the series, but eventually, the pendulum will swing the other way, and those bounces will start to go in Florida's favor. And, you don't want to give them 17 high danger chances in a game, because those bounces will start to go in their favor and they'll find the back of the net. 34 scoring chances they had against tonight. So, yeah, the Leafs certainly are going to have to play better in their own zone and find a way to get the puck out. And that top line for sure cannot get suffocated by that Barkov and Reinhart line like they did tonight. I get it. They're difficult lines, the best defensive shutdown line in hockey, 2 Selke candidates. But guess who else are 2 Selke candidates? Matthews and Marner. And they're also 2 guys who can put up 100 points apiece and light up the scoreboard. 70 goals last year for our guy, Austin Matthews. So they can get it done on both ends of the ice too. It's time going into the next game that they start to win some of these minutes and some of these matchups, right? So that's what we need to see, I think, heading into game 3. We'll come back tomorrow and detail a little bit more as to what the Maple Leafs need to do to try and take a 3-0 stranglehold as the series shifts back to sunrise for game 3 on Friday. But that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs on Twitter and on Instagram. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow to tee up game number 3 of the Leafs and Panthers. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.